Hi guys, welcome to the blog today. So you never really know what sets Mary off, and I was reading. It was a very short article today about a missile engineer from Raytheon who was arrested by the FBI for taking secret information to China. Now, there's several things we want to talk about in this particular article. I'll talk about the article, and then we'll talk about internal threat. So. Evidently, this guy had been working for Raytheon for over 10 years and working on this highly classified missile program, ballistic missile defense system. And so he allegedly, knowingly and willfully, took his work laptop to. There was some debate, but he took it to China and in 2019 on the 2019 trip. And even after being told by his manager that taking that type of data to China was illegal, he did it anyway. And then he went, um, while in China, said he was going to resign. But then he came back to the States and was arrested for taking that information on his work laptop. Now, there's so much there, and there are so many ways I can go, but I want to talk about insider threat and the basics of trying to stop something like this from happening. An employee taking data out of your systems and trying to sell them to someone else. So, and we're going to go back to computer science 101 for a second. Don't kill me for geeking out a little bit, but there are basic things that happen in with a computer file. So there are what's called permissions, right? Read, write, execute. So you're typing something, you type a Word document on your computer, you have read and write access to that particular document. You can do whatever you want. You have executable permissions usually to your laptop. So that means you can download programs. Programs are executable files. You can download programs and run programs. You can have download Office, or you can download whatever that your company allows you to do. And if you have local access, you can actually do those things. When you are interacting with the database or application or something like that, those permissions are usually set by the administrator or the owner of that application or database. So they could restrict, though that particular owner can restrict your access to the particular files in that particular database or whatever, to, let's say, read only, meaning you can read it, but you can't download it, right? And so what we have here is you have a contractor that's inside a company that is trying to steal data. Now, let me first say this, and I know there's going to be a lot of people to argue with me. If they want it, they're going to get it. Essentially, you can take a picture of the information as you're sitting there in your desk. That's where your physical security comes in, right? You have cameras that, if it's super secret, right? If it's this big deal, you have other things that you can do to find out if an employee is stealing data, but you don't necessarily have to give them access to download that information to their laptop. It's different. Having access to something doesn't mean you have to have all those permission, right? And so access control is a foundational element, or knowing who has access to what is a foundational element to what would be an insider threat type of program, because anything that's outside of the ordinary, as someone is interacting with a particular file, that could be an alert. And so, back in the day when I was doing DLP, data leak prevention, um, we created rules about particular data that would give us alerts based on the sensitivity of that data and who has access to it. So, because if you want to confine, you don't want to give everybody access to everything, because then when you don't even know if it's an employee or a hacker that's into your system that's having access to this stuff. So if you actually control the amount of people that actually have the ability to manipulate a particular file, then you can actually get an idea if something is an anomaly out of the ordinary for that particular activity. And that's all what data leak prevention is designed to do. Software is designed to do, is is to trigger on anomalies and or to be able to encrypt sensitive information if it's being emailed. We did that. Or prevent access to removable media drives. We did that, where essentially you couldn't download any information on a removable media thumb drive, nor could you email it out without it being encrypted. And then there were certain data that if you tried to email it out, it wouldn't even let it go. So you have the technical controls that's supporting your definition of this information being very sensitive. And so when you're talking about internal threat, essentially you're trying to figure out what that employee is doing that is outside of the ordinary of what their job function would be. Now, his job function, according to this article, he did have access to this information. However, the way they said it is he transported the data on his company laptop. Doesn't necessarily mean he had he logged into the network to get access to this data. He could very well have downloaded this data on his hard drive, on his C drive. And then the question becomes, why are you allowing him to download this super secret information to his laptop? And even if it is his work laptop, then we start talking about, okay, so why weren't there other precautions when this individual was traveling abroad that will prevent him or her from having access or taking this information? Oftentimes when you have higher level execs or folks that have access to highly classified information, you don't send them overseas with a laptop that they do use every day. You send them overseas with a clean laptop that actually has absolutely nothing on it, that may be able to get in VPN to access into the network of the company. There's nothing that, it didn't even have to have a hard drive in it, so to speak, if you didn't want that information downloaded. And then when that device came back, you scrub it, right? You re-image it. You don't even bother with it. And then so if you have a standard build for a travel laptop, and your average internal threat actor wouldn't necessarily like that particular policy, but your individual employees that are on the up and up probably wouldn't have a problem with it. Again, there are always ways around the rules. You just really trying to create a process by which it's just not that easy. The reason why ransomware and corporate systems spreads so rapidly is because it's encrypting everything that individual employee has access to. And a lot of times people just don't take the time to do those basic file permissions. Like if I am in accounting, only people that should have access to the accounting file folder or share drive or whatever is the people in accounting. A handful of people. Unless it's a large group. But even then, that's why you have enterprise level IAM people, identity access management people, who can restrict access based on that individual job function or something like that. So all of these in all of your security programs are anything that you're trying to do in security. Sometimes it comes down to these basic concepts, read, write, execute. What does that person have access to? What are they doing with it? And a lot of times people just want to say, oh, everybody has access to everything, because it's hard, right? It's more difficult to try to figure out those permissions than it is to just say, oh, okay, everybody has access to everything. And that's part of the problem. In this particular case, Raytheon or whatever this individual was working on in Raytheon, they should have known that China would be interested in the type of work this individual was doing. So there are multiple layers of security that one could apply to this, the type of data that they have, that will prevent or try to make it more difficult for individual to be able to steal that information. And it's a technical explanation, but it goes for even customer list. I think that many organizations, they've figured their customer list is intellectual property, that they don't want executives taking that list and going somewhere else with it and competing. Well, if you don't protect that customer database or that customer list as it is as important to you as intellectual property, you may have a challenging time in a court of law trying to explain to a judge if you say that this is important to you. Why didn't you have any security precautions in place to prevent somebody from doing the very thing that you're now suing this person for? So yeah, just be mindful of that as you're trying to build out your programs. Some of these basic things are foundational that you have to build on as you're trying to, battle against threat actors. Okay. Well, stay tuned for our random thought. Have a great day. Heard about our privilege protection plan? What's that, you may ask? Essentially, I think it's one of the most important reasons you should hire the cybersecurity law firm of Texas to handle your cybersecurity and privacy needs. Essentially, whatever we do to try to give you a legal opinion about where you stand from a cybersecurity and privacy perspective is covered by attorney-client privilege. You should check it out. Check out our privilege protection plan. Go to our website now and see if you're interested. If so, give us a call. Hey guys, random thought for today. So, in the words of Swift Justice, I guess it was last week that we talked about the Supreme Court refusing to hear Facebook's Biometric Information Privacy Act case. It was a class action lawsuit out of Illinois. They settled. When the Supreme Court actually failed to hear the case itself, Facebook ended up settling 2 days later for like $550 million. I want to say, yeah, $550 million to settle the case against it. That the class action lawsuit that was brought. If you guys recall, they were using the citizens in Illinois brought the case because of the tagging feature, the facial recognition tagging feature that Facebook used to have. I use Facebook. I don't remember. I don't think they still have it. And if they still do have it, I turned it off because I don't get those notifications anymore. But they settled the case, and 2 days after the Supreme Court decided that it didn't want to hear the case. And I mean, that particular Biometric Privacy Act out of Illinois, there was a class action against Lowe's and Home Depot as well under this law. So this law actually has some teeth to it, and we'll see if other states start to enact similar legislation that will prevent companies from utilizing facial recognition features inappropriately or without permission. So, just wanted to update you guys on that. It was very interesting to me. Anyway, have a great day. Guys, thanks again for listening to the Breach Whisperer blog, sponsored by the cybersecurity law firm of Texas. Don't forget to like this post and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates of when we post new things on our channel. In addition, spread the word for me, right? Let's get out there and tell a friend, and so they can all become paranoid cybersecurity and privacy people. Don't forget, if you would like to connect with me on socials, you can connect with me on Twitter at Mary N. Chaney. Use my middle initial always. For my nonprofit, Minorities in Cybersecurity, that is at Mike Leadership, and Instagram and Facebook at MN Chaney Law. And you can find me on LinkedIn just by searching for my name. So if you're interested, connect with me. Thanks again. And just remember, awareness equals knowledge.